Everybody ready? All right. Thank you, everyone, for coming tonight. It's 6:45, Thursday, September 30th. My name is Bill Duvall, Chairman of the Public Utilities and Transportation Committee, and this is our committee meeting. I want to call this committee to order, and first thing I want to introduce as our committee members is Ann Hunsinger and Lisa Newberry. And I'd like to make a motion that we approve the agenda that's set before you. Here in second. All in favor, say aye. 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 Thank you very much. So we'll start off with item number one, which is the American Rescue Plan Act. So ARPA, this is a grant. This is a grant through the state. And so we have ARP funding. We've applied, and what's our ARP funding total? It's like 4.8 million.
We have 2.4 in the bank now.
2.4 in the bank. But then there's this grant that's come up, and what with the opportunity of the grant, the grant has several different options. It's sewer and water is certainly what we're talking about today, but there was other disciplines that you could apply through that didn't apply to us. So what we're looking at is Brandon and Danny have looked at our capital improvement program, come up with some priorities that's set before you in the project list, and we're going to kind of go over those. Is that you want to go over one these individuals to start with, Danny? Is that right?
Yes, I can. So the grant that we would ask is, the reason it's coming before y'all tonight, because in order to apply for this grant, we also have to match funding. They have not told us what the percentage should be, only that what we've heard is the more you give, the better chances you are at receiving this grant. So if you look at that spreadsheet to the right, you see I got a 15% and 20%. So it's typical with our CDBG and LMIG, it's those matches are 30% that we do. So talking with our engineer, Brandon, myself, and Bill, we thought about a number of $350,000. So if you go with 20% match, it would be $360,000 that we would have to match, which that could come out of the money that we already have. So it's not like it's coming out of utilities, it's coming out of the grant that we currently have. But it does take away from that 4.8 that we would get this time next year.
But
so
hold on too. We also need to say too that obviously these are projects that we have that we want to do, but this opportunity to apply for this grant is due by the end of the month.
That's correct, October 31st.
October 31st. That's why we're bringing it to committee today so that we can talk about these. If we move forward with it through the council, then we'll be able to apply for a grant. We've got a short period of time. We've been working on it as far as getting information together, but anyway, that's where we're headed.
Yes, it's very similar to the CARES grant that we applied for with the public safety, with the payroll. We had to submit documents. They evaluated it. They approved it. We made some changes, and then they sent it back, and then we refiled, and they finally approved it. But this is very similar to that. We will start actually next week preparing all the documents and anticipating approval come the 14th of October for this. So we're not wasting. I'm going to wait until 2 weeks to do all this. So we're talked with the engineer last night, and we're going to start probably on this Monday preparing the documents. So what's before you is actually 3 or 4 different projects into one. So we're calling it the BFC treatment plant and Holly Court lift station. And I'll go over these easily as I can, because it's if you don't know much about water and sewer, it can be complicated. So on the first page, the map that I printed out with the maps, you'll see on the left side influent pump and electrical panel. So every bit of sewer, this is the first place it makes contact with the plant. This is what actually pumps it to the plant. If this goes down, nothing works. So it's 20 years old. The pumps are working fine. The electrical panel needs to be upgraded. It did not get addressed in the current phase that we just did, but it's something that if we have this money, it's on our plan to furbish. And when we hit 5 million gallons in 10 years, we'll probably add another pump to there. But right now it's 3 pumps. They're all 3 working. But we want to go ahead and replace one pump and then replace the electrical cabinet. They're working on it. They piecemeal it sometimes. Mike's here, the plant director's behind Brandon. He's here. He's been running this plant for quite some time. So that's one part of it. The other part is, if you look to the far right, it looks like a swimming pool. That's not a swimming pool. That's the cesspool. This is where all the septic haulers dump their load. And septic load is different than what we have come in from the plant. It's more acidic. It's just very hard on the materials in the pond. The life expectancy on equipment gets narrow because it's such a harsh environment to live in with all the chemicals people put in their septic trucks and tanks. So there's aerators there that has to keep that moving 24/7, 7 days a week. It's constantly moving. There are some 25 horsepower motors there that need to be upgraded to 40 horsepower, but we've never had the funding to do that. So when it breaks, they're getting really good at, like NASCAR, as soon as it breaks, takes out, rebuild it and stick it back in, but there's no backup. This would give us a backup and new motors. So that is the float aeration that digests 2 and 3. And also we would add another digester to that little plant, that little pond in the middle. That's where it goes on the second stage. Any questions on the plant?
Add another aerator, right?
Oh, aerator, yes. It just blows air, correct, Mike? 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365, never turns off. So, any questions on that? Okay. The other part of that project is to decommission Holly Court Pump Station. So,
Well, wait a second. I'm sorry.
oh, I got the chlorine, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
chlorine glass,
Yeah,
let's say
chlorine.
that.
If you flip the page, thanks, Bill. If you flip the page, you'll see the chlorine gas. So, in our old plant, we were treating with chlorine gas. But with a new upgrade, we went to what's called ultraviolet, VLR? UV, I'm sorry, thank you, ultraviolet. The chlorine is a very harsh chemical, especially if it leaks. It's a very hazardous material. It's probably the single most deadliest thing at this plant. We want to get rid of it. But we had to have chlorine or some type of cleaning agent to clean the reuse to kill what they call the bugs. So, we did the reuse. If you see that tank on the far right, that's the reuse tank. So when they treat the wastewater, it's essentially clean water. It's what they use at the plant now. It's not drinking water. It's one step from being drinking water, but it is clean water, but we had to have some kind of chemical to make sure it's sterilized. So we want to go from a chlorine gas to a liquid bleach in a lot less quantity. Right now we have 1 ton gas cylinders, and we want to go to 250 gallons of liquid bleach, which is more stable than gas.
And so once we start using that second use water out to irrigation,
To
that type
public,
of thing, to
correct.
public, and collecting money, it's got to receive that bleach dose.
That's correct. Correct. That's correct. Yes. Any questions on the technicals? There's the guy right there that can answer it for you. I just try to keep
So
it
does
simple.
it dose it as it goes out? Is that what it does?
It doses when it comes into the tank.
Into the tank, okay.
And then on the flip side of that, if we do this project and get rid of the chlorine gas, we would actually use that building for maintenance. So when these pumps get pulled from the cesspools, there is an overhead crane there. That's what uses to lift a 1 ton cylinder. We would turn that into a maintenance shop for the maintenance. His name's Stacy, who works there. So he'll have buy some pressure washer, remodel this building a little bit so he can have a way to pick up pumps without using a forklift or a backhoe. It's just more of we'll reuse this building. That's part of this as well, this 1.8 million. Any questions before I move? It's the little building that says chlorine gas. Yep. Right now, it has a 1 ton cylinder. It's pretty big. And it's got a little building that keeps other chemicals in there.
We have 2 buildings, one for chlorine gas and one for sulfur dioxide.
Sulfur dioxide, yes.
But they're in 2 separate buildings.
But if we get rid of that chlorine gas, well, there'll be no use for that any longer, correct?
So I guess too, the decommissioning the chlorine, I mean, what's the process in that? Is it turning it over to another business or something, or what? What do you do with it?
Whenever you say turn it over.
It's essentially, they will come and pick that tank up and
Correct.
Okay.
It's,
that's it.
it stays, there's two tanks there, one's always full and one's always empty. And they would just essentially take those tanks and where we get our chlorine from now.
All right, great.
And by the way, that's the picture of the new plant.
Is a provider the same? Or we have to change provider for the different chemicals?
We would change, provider. It'd be a different company.
Are we a different company? Okay.
So the chlorine gas tank's like a propane tank, same idea? You just
It
swap
is.
it out with the vendor, a full one, and they bring back a,
It is.
Okay.
And we can, you can only store up to about 2,500 pounds. So we have to get one tank pretty much empty before we can have another cylinder on site.
You know, we're licensed for a one-ton facility.
and when we change to bleach, how is that stored? Is it
Imagine
just
be
a liquid
contained.
tank?
It's gonna be in like a 250 gallon tote tank. It's
Okay.
gonna be a little tote tank. We'll put a little small pump there, and it'll dose only when the flow is going into the pre-con tank.
Okay.
So how long do you think, I mean, how long will that 250 gallon tank last? I mean, how often do you have to replenish or what?
It'll probably last a month or so.
Okay.
Probably about the same as, I think it'll go a little farther than chlorine gas, because it does pretty much regularly. But the thing about chlorine gas is it's such a hazard chemical, and hopefully that should help us a little on the insurance as well, just having that outside.
Okay. The next item on that same 1.8 is decommission the Holly Court lift station, which is 40 years old. It was 1980. It was in service. So if you don't know what a pump station is, if you're, Highway 78 is the ridge for Loganville. Everything on this side of Highway 78 typically flows gravity to the plant. Everything on the Youth Monroe side, or sorry, Youth side of 78 is pumped over the ridge, which is 78. So we have a lot of pump stations on that side of the town. They are they're a burden to the city. They require a lot of maintenance. They use a lot of power. If they have power failure, they have to have generators. If that fails, then you have a spillage, which we commonly deal with. So anytime we can decommission a pump station, we like to do that. And the way you do decommission is you have to turn it into a gravity. So we would actually decommission this pump station and turn it into a gravity, and it would flow to Huntington Ridge Pump Station, and it's on the next page. It's hard to see. Google Earth doesn't show you the pump stations, but it's roughly 1,900 feet that we had gravity. And that pump station, Huntington, pumps to, Channel Hawk subdivision, which pumps to Logan Point. Everything leads to Logan Point, and then Logan Point pumps it up to Highway 78 at Old Zion Cemetery Road. But we've decommissioned several pumps in the last 5 years. I think Cowan was the last one we decommissioned. It's just something to get off our liability, and gravity is much safer than pumping.
Danny, very briefly, explain to me how you go from pump to gravity. What are the steps you go for it to
So
be
right now,
gravity? Real quick.
it pumps under pressure to a certain location.
That's right.
To either to a manhole, to another pump station, or to the plant. So we would actually take this, which is, it's higher in elevation, so it flow gravity to this pump station. So we would have to follow the creek, Little Haynes Creek. We would have to have an easement from a gentleman, which he is willing to give us, because if we have a gravity line, then he could sell his property for potential development, because there's sewer there. Right now, there's sewer not there.
That's right.
So I think you'd be willing to give us a easement. We've already talked to the gentleman. He's, verbally said he would, But that's how you accomplish that, Mayor. It's gotta be something, you can't pump, you can't gravity uphill, it has to be downhill. So we would just gravity flow it all the way to another pump station. It would turn around, pump it to Channel Rock. There's a lot of zigzag in our pump stations. So anytime we can get rid of them, we try to get rid of them.
All right, one more thing real quick. What are the procedures to discontinue a pump station? Just,
Yeah, you just
Just-
lay the pipe, you connect it to where you're gonna dump it, and then you run it up, and then you tie in, then once it's tied in, you just decommit, you just literally take the pump out, and it becomes just a concrete slab. There's no more structures there.
How long does that take?
This would take a month. Yeah, or just a decommission and line. How long did Cowan take? Yeah, I'd say it's a month, to be safe, because you are going through the stream, coordinate with the state buffer, which is allowed because it is a sewer line.
that's right. If I understand Holly Court, there's a house right there, basically, real close to the pump station. Who owns that property? It goes
The
back to
pump
the
station, we
house?
own it.
What's
Yeah,
that?
all the pump stations we own.
Okay,
The
so
land
we
is
still
ours.
own that little
Yeah.
property? Okay.
Yep. So usually all your pump stations are in a low area because everything flows gravity to that pump, and that pump turns around and pumps it uphill to somewhere else. And then either, like I said, it goes to the plant or it goes to another pump station. It's a lot of leapfrog.
Okay.
And-
So the gravity station right now is at the zero? on the
There
map?
is no gravity sewer
Or
line
the
there.
pump station, I'm sorry, is at the zero
Yes.
on this map?
No, it's at 18.
It's at the 1800?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, the one you're taking out, the Holly Court one is at the zero, right?
No, Holly Court is up there where it says 1868. That little
Okay,
blue dot is where Holly Court actually dead ends, and the pump station's to the right.
to the right.
Is what our map showed. Make sure I'm
Okay,
telling
so
you
that's the
right.
pump station and we're
Yeah,
taking
and it
that
flows
out,
down to Hunter's Lane, to that
which is
pump
the zero.
station. Yep,
Okay.
there's a pump station there. And then that pump station goes through the woods to Channel Hawk Pump Station. Channel
Okay.
Hawk Pump Station takes it from there to Logan Point, and then Logan Point takes it from Logan Point across 78.
But at the 1868.6 feet pin or so, that's the current pump station. We'll remove
Correct.
that, and then it's downhill to the zero?
That's correct.
Okay, I got it.
And then, we all know you take the pump out, that's less maintenance, but what, there again, how old was Holly Court again?
It's built 1980. It was commissioned in 1980.
40,
so
40 years?
40 years, 41 years.
Then it's one of the oldest?
It is one of the oldest. The library, I think, yeah, they're about close.
So how does this affect the citizens? Or how long will they be out without service?
They would not go out without service at all.
Okay.
So, that, they have to go there and have a septic tanks to pump while it's offline. So anytime there's power failure, we have to contract with a septic hauler, and they either pump, they pump it out and either take it to a manhole and dump it, or they take it to our plant. Usually they take it to a manhole and dump it and let it go from there. Like when Logan Point goes down, it is a extremely large task to keep up. You're talking, that pump station is 1,000 gallons a minute. And when we decommission this and take the flow off of Channel Hawk, it's gonna actually free up capacity. So if that area does develop, it'll have more capacity. Chandler Hawks is almost at 100% capacity. But- And there's more to this that will help us down the road, but it's extremely complicated to explain because it's a ripple effect for the good. It just takes a lot of capacity off of other pump stations if we do this.
Is the Hunter's Lane pump station is the only pump station that feeds into Chandler Hawk? Or there's another one,
You know?
you know?
Hold on, let me just,
Okay.
let me pull up the pump stations for y'all. Do y'all want to see them? I didn't want to bore y'all with them. Any other questions while I look for this? Yeah.
I do have a question. So do we lay new pipe
Yes.
And so if we're switching from the pump to the gravity, we lay all new pipe? But there's already pipe there? We're just changing how it pumps through? Is that right?
There's a force main there, yes.
How big is it?
It's 8-inch?
So it's plenty big.
It's a 6-inch, I'm
So
sorry.
are we gonna go bigger when we lay new pipe? Okay, so we're upgrading the size of the pipe as well? Okay, cool.
All right, while he's pulling that up, any other questions on that? So this is what this is what we would send to the state as a project, and they would grade it and evaluate it and either tell us they would support this or not support this, but we can also show how this ties into COVID. That's another category. It's just, by doing a pump station, taking offline, it reduces the manpower load. So if we have people out with COVID, it's just all ties into it, so.
And also too, as far as the match, we have to come up with some number to put on there. I mean, things like what CDBG is typically that 30% match. LMIG, I think, was a 30% match. So, we could go that high. We've thrown around, but we came up with a number that seems fairly reasonable. But it's, all we're trying to do is make sure, they understand that we're committed to this project and we're going to move forward,
Technology, I swear.
So I have a question. If we said in the beginning that the more you match, the better chance you'll get of getting the grant, if we don't get it at 20%, do they give us a second look, or we can offer up 30?
Lisa, there's so little information about how to apply for this, we don't know. This information I said is actually coming from other cities and from Mike, our other engineer, who's done similar with projects. He recommended, was it 15%? 15%. It's just, there's no guidelines that they're doing for this project.
Okay.
It literally came about, actually, when I was in surgery, that, hey, the state's got a new grant now, I'll apply for it. I'm like, what are y'all talking about? So I had to call City of Monroe and talk to them, and they were the ones that told me about it. Let's see if that'll pull up. I bet Kyle's watching this and just shaking his head. Kyle, you
probably-
should have been here is all I can tell you.
You could run down the hall and grab a map quickly.
I know, I could, I just print it. It just, Mikey won't pick up the TV. Anyway. The next item, y'all any questions? So what match would y'all like to see while we're asking? The match, what percentage would you like to see? So 20% is at 360,000, 15% is at 270,000.
I mean, I'm good with a 20%, if that's what you guys feel like where we need to be.
What can we afford?
This is all coming out of 4.8 million.
Okay,
So
but-
whatever we take from there is gonna be less than what other projects we could do.
So the 4.8 million, this is the primary use, so we're not gonna take away from, I mean, I know we did the incentives. What else are we?
All
earmarking?
these projects you see
Okay,
on here.
so this is really what we,
Yeah, the first three are really tied for priority. And then the last three are water.
I mean, I'd like to do 10 if we'll get it, %,
Right.
but to Lisa's point, which was a good one, I don't wanna under offer it and then get passed over. Is there any way to find out the cities who've been awarded the grant, what,
No, because they haven't awarded them.
they haven't awarded any yet?
Yeah, you have till the 31st to submit it, and I don't know how long the awards will take.
So you have those other grants, they're 30. I'm used to most of the federal projects are 20% match. So, I mean, I kind of like the 20 myself.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. I like that idea. 25. It's like a realtor fee, right?
Yeah.
I'll give you 9% to sell my house.
He's on overtime, so he's like, I'll stay here till midnight. We'll move on. If we can pull it up, great. If not, I'll have it for the council meeting though, for sure. The next two items are sewer related. They are what's called the Pecan Outfall. So one of these we have actually applied for was CDBG for 2022. We have not been told either way if we received it or not, but we applied for 500,000 to do the first one. We put 600,000 because the economy's going up. And by the way, these are all just estimates. These are not hard numbers. They're just best guess estimates from our engineer and Brandon and myself. So if they're right, I'll take the credit. If they're wrong, we'll blame Mike and Brandon. 2,400 foot of sewer. These are all gravity lines that is actually behind Feige bottoms that go to the plant. It's on your next page. So the zero is actually where we would start, and then we would run it to that 1705, which is Leeward Road. So that outfall runs through the woods. This is the one that leaked. This, yep. And we would upsize it. Now these have been in the ground for 40 plus years. We think we know the size. It's only as good as the paper tells us, but we would definitely increase the size. I believe what do we say, 24 inch, 36 inch. That would carry us well into the future.
You said this is terracotta at this point or not? Terracotta, okay. And it's roughly going to run the same alignment, right? I mean, we're not need any
No,
property on
we're-
this, it's just go
no.
in there and replace it.
That's correct. This is an easement that was never signed back in the 60s, between Mr. Carter's father and the city. But we have a prescriptive easement because we've been working on it for 40 years. This is where the old Mitchell Springs, where we got our water from, the ground, this is where this is also located. So this is to me, this is probably one of the top projects we need to address. And then to carry it a little bit step further, the next one is taking it actually from Leebird
Well,
to the plant.
it too is, like Lisa asked earlier, so if you're replacing this section right here, how do you keep service while you're doing it? Is it,
I imagine this would run parallel. The new pipe would run parallel, and then when you made your connections, you would just tie them in.
okay.
I mean, I believe that's how they did it before, right? Yeah. Any questions on that? And the next one is actually, like I said, taking it from the Leebird Road. It runs with the creek. That's the landing mobile home park, and then the Bay Creek storage. It just runs, and then it runs into the influent pump that you saw earlier.
How wide is the easement in these places? Like, if we're gonna run pipe next to it, I mean, is it a 10-foot? I'm just curious.
Now we do 20 feet, but some of these might have been 10 because they were done so long ago, but one is never recorded, so we would ask for a 20-foot easement.
Okay. I mean, it just looks like we're going straight through trees and roots, but there's actually cleared space for these pipes?
For the most part.
For the most part,
Yeah.
okay.
I mean, there will be some trees and roots and stuff, because you, like I said, this is 40 years.
Now, do we do this, or do we contract this out?
This would all be contracted,
All contracted, okay.
because this is a, well, not the Lieber, the mobile home park side, but the other side is a lot of wetland,
On the
swampy
creek,
area.
Yeah,
especially in high rainfall.
yeah.
But that's also too, is, do you need, or will you, as part of the work, clear that section, that easement through there?
Yes, it will be a clear 20-foot wide. It'd be 10-foot center of the pipe, both sides, all the way. And it'll have manholes and stuff like that.
And where the gate is at Lee Bird, I know where you access that leak, it's now got the little red sign on it. Is that part of that easement?
Yes, it is.
Is that where it comes out?
That's where we make access and drive. So now, we can actually come in off of Ray Road and drive from there to Lee Bird down. So, and the line runs to the left of the road. This is, like I said, a very viable project. This is probably mine and Brandon's #1 project.
So I'm assuming if we got the 2.4, and say we don't get the grant, these projects will be used for
Yeah,
the
these top 2
2.4.
projects will be I
Yeah.
think, what Brandon and I would recommend to the council as our #1 and #2 project.
For the money that we got from the ARP.
Mhm.
Okay.
And, like I said before, Natalie and I have been in dozens of the ARP meetings, and if they said it once, they said 1,000 times, don't spend this money now, wait. Because they know if everybody spends contractor's price is what we saw in last meeting, they're gonna go sky high, and what we could get for maybe 1 million is gonna be 2 million. So we're gonna wait. We have till 2026 to use the money, but we have to earmark it by 2024, December 31st, 2024. So we have some time. And these are the projects that we talked about in other committee that we could possibly pair with a bigger project, gets, smaller unit prices.
Hey, Danny, after we send the grant at the end of the month, how long would we know?
We don't know.
Don't know.
The other
That's
one
federal
took
government, right?
a month, Natalie. So
Get her.
there's,
We don't know.
right, there's really not much information out there.
Okay.
Of course, we're working with GMA. They've been great with telling us, Miss Bailey. So we just want to be ready to submit come the time. Any questions on those 2 projects? All right. The last 3 are drinking water projects. We just currently, approved, take it from the high school to Miramart. The first project will actually take it from Miramart, take it to this side of Lee Bird. The next, that's actually upsizing the 8-inch to a 12-inch. The next line item is taking it from Lee Bird Road to Firehouse Subs. Ultimately, we want to get to Firehouse Subs where it will tie into another 12-inch, which is going to give us the total benefit of the Monroe water line of 5 million gallons per day. But we have 10 years roughly before we hit 5 MG, we think. So that's why they're a little bit lower on the list. We got water now from Monroe. We're getting water from our second from Washington County. We still have our first connection. And Gwinnett's as emergency. So as you can see, the water is kind of on the next lower list. The third item is Baker Carter. That should be your last page. That's actually filling in a gap. Anytime we can tie our systems together, we do that. It's called looping it. It gives us more residual pressure. So right now, the Baker Carter line deads in at Park Place, and we would like to run it up to the side entrance of Logan Point. That would tie in at 81, and Baker Carter would all be tied in. Now it stops. So anytime we can eliminate dead ends and loop it, that's what we choose to do, and that's why it's on here. Any questions on those? Okay.
So, I like the priorities. Appreciate you walking through us what those are. I guess, kind of where I'm thinking is a motion that our committee approve or suggest the moving forward with project 1 and the $360,000
Match.
match. Thank you. That's kind of what I'm thinking. That's what I propose.
And the mayor, we're gonna need some favors from you. We're gonna need you to get some letters of support, maybe from Mr. Williamson.
Okay.
And just, anytime we can get letters to support these projects, that's that recommendation of the engineer. It just maybe puts us one step above someone else.
So you're saying a letter from Mr. Williamson, is that what you're saying?
Yep.
in Concord?
Yep.
Okay.
Who else? Who we discussed? I don't know, we'll find you a
figure it
list, Mayor,
Okay.
of your contacts. That's all I have on these items. The agenda, what's the next? I don't- Street sweeper. So as we discussed,
So, wait a second,
I'm
Joy,
sorry.
is that,
oh, yeah, you need a motion. I'm
I have a
sorry.
motion, is there a second? Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, street sweeper, we discussed in the last committee meeting, and you went here, so we are required to street sweep once a year for our MS4, which is stormwater. Bill, while you're here, is it a tonnage, yardage, mileage?
Well, we do by mileage and,
What is an average that we pay for?
And
it?
microphone.
It's dead, I think.
last year I got a startup company to do it, and I got 12 miles done. It was right around $4,000. This year, she quoted me, another 12 was gonna go up to around 8 or 9,000.
And what do you anticipate the week we have the street sweeper will get? What do you anticipate, how many miles do you get?
Oh,
Everything?
we can cover the whole city. If we run it once, we can get more than 12 miles. We can get, the main drags, a lot of the subdivisions that need it. And it's, we can go a long ways with that.
So Bill Barraza was a foreman for Stormwater, so I know he had some questions earlier, we didn't have them, but I think that answered them. So we did, like I said, rent a street sweeper. It's gonna be here
Hopefully Monday.
Monday.
Yes, sir.
It will start with 2 crews, a morning crew and a nighttime crew.
Yeah.
There'll be a crew in front of them loosening the debris so it can come in. Like I said, we'll have a police escort, but that was covered in Public Works Committee, but what I said, what I started thinking is what would it cost to buy one? So I started doing some research and found a company, and that quote's in front of you. It's $163,000 for a non-commercial street sweeper, which is what they would recommend because more people can drive it because it's a smaller street sweeper. But you can do a lot of miles for $8,000 versus $163,000. So, but I want to put that before y'all as an option. But since we found this rental, I think that may be our best course of action.
Do we have to add employees to be able to operate this?
No.
We use current headcount, we don't,
I mean, minus a sewer break, water main break where they would take them off the job. It would be highways and streets, stormwater, and probably a couple of other guys that would help them. But I told them in our staff meeting, this is priority 1 for me, get 78 done, and then Main Street, District, and then we have to do streets with curb and gutter. They can't be streets that doesn't have that because it wouldn't be able to suck it up.
So Danny, the street sweeper is used once a year for state, or how many times will we use the street sweeper? I mean, after we clean it up one time, we do the 12 miles.
That's it.
When will be, that's it? Okay.
And the rent will be, we can say once a year. We're only required to do it once a year for our MS4 permit. But if we, it is, like I said, $8,000 today. Next year it may be more because obviously they're going up. We can do a lot in 1 week, according to Bill. But this will be our first time. Maybe it's not as much as we think we can. But the first time is going to be the longest because it's the dirtiest. But if that's something the city would like to see twice a year, we just set the money aside.
How many hours? It says it has a 1,200-hour warranty or 1 year. How long do these things last?
I've asked that question. They would not give me an answer. They says, as long as you take care of it. That's subjective. I can tell you that another city here, I won't say who it is, has a brand new one, and the exact words is, it worked. I mean, we use it when it's not broke, and it's brand new.
and that's my question, what's the cost of ownership?
Yeah.
Is it a money
What I
pit?
have, what do you mean? On
Is
as
it a
far
money
as,
pit, or is it,
at least I couldn't answer it 'cause we've never had one. I'm not sure, but I do know that talking with the dealer and watching hours and hours of videos, if you don't clean it every single day, and I mean really clean it, it will tear up quick. So yes, there is a lot of maintenance because you gotta remember all the debris, and it uses water. And if you don't clean it out, it'll get stopped up and then you're replacing. It's got 2 motors. The one we're looking at has, you can buy them with, runs off the engine motor, but they're typically more money. So I could not answer your question, how long they stay. There's a lot of them for use, I see, that are 5, 6 years old for sale.
So, do I understand that right now we sweep once a year? It's about $8,000 to sweep once a year?
4,000. And it's going up to 8,000, he said.
Okay, so we're deciding whether we want to spend $4,000 a year, and it's somebody else's problem, or $163,000 to buy a machine that we use once a year?
Well, almost be 8,000 to rent one for a week,
Okay,
or we can buy one. I'm just submitting to y'all. If you ask why don't we have one, I'm presenting it to you. This is what it costs
oh,
if you
so
want
we
one.
asked why we didn't have one? I didn't know that.
No, but it has been brought up to me
Okay,
from
that's why I'm
other
asking,
people,
yeah.
was why don't we have one? So I just went ahead and did some investigation. This came about, they found one that we could rent. So I'm like, well, what do they cost? They're like, well, we don't know. So we started looking. So it's here before y'all. I threw it on this agenda last minute
Got
just to show y'all that we are looking.
Okay,
But like Bill said, that's a whole lot of time at 8,000 versus 163,000.
I mean, that's 20,
Right, 20 years.
I mean, even if it doubled or tripled, it'd be,
Right.
and we have no machine, I don't think I'd support a expenditure of 163.
Now, right, and I agree. I mean, I like the idea of if you have equipment that can improve your system and use more effectively, I think that's great. But in this case, I think the rental's perfect. But
Yeah.
did you say that they're actually going to come and demonstrate it to you at all?
They are. Next week, they're going to come and show the guys, demo it.
I mean, and I think that's probably a good thing too, if you get a demo and you get the rental and you learn that, and we get through this week with the rental and see how things go, and then look at it in the future if there's a viability. I think though, it just doesn't, using it for one time a year doesn't make fiscal sense.
I'd be interested to see how it works, like y'all can look
Yep.
at it and be like, I don't want any part of this, or,
Exactly.
that we need to keep, I don't know.
Bill, have you,
This machine is versatile too. It can be used for cleaning out catch basins and so forth. I've ran them before.
Okay,
It is a maintenance thing, but if it's kept up, it will last a good while. The particular one that will be demonstrated to us, on the inside, on the impeller, on the suction side, it's got a liner on the inside that will prolong the life of the housing. Because when it goes in there, it's like a sandblaster.
Sure.
So, probably would, and we would run it more than once a year. I mean, it would help tremendously with the stormwater. And by keeping and make the area look better, the city look much nicer. Plus, with getting this stuff and prolonging, you're looking at maybe we can get some stormwater grants to upgrade a lot of stuff.
well, I mean, I guess if we could use it, if we could show that we could use the sweeper somewhere that would save us maintenance or costs on stormwater, like it saved us 25,000 because it was cleaned out, I think that would be something that would be important to know, but just an apples to sweep versus rent, the math doesn't work for me. Can we get any more, I mean, would it help?
I mean, it does have we have a back truck that does similar to that for catch basins, but another use is when you have a diesel spill or something on the roadway, you throw the sand. The only way we get it now is with shovels and brooms. This could be used for that, but there again, how often are you doing that?
Right.
Mainly, this is more of information for y'all to say, hey, we are looking at it.
Sure.
This is what it costs. I'll have Bill look and see what kind of grants. Maybe there is a grant out there that we purchase it for nothing, but
Danny, can it be used when the garbage truck takes the hydraulic dump on our roads?
possibly you get the sand up, yes. I mean, the litter, yes, possibly could. It is an expensive machine. And we even talked about renting it out to maybe Walton County, but no, we would have to operate it, yeah.
I mean, I agree, what we're saying, that comparing rent to own doesn't seem to make sense. However, you got some very good points, so I guess I'd like to see just more of a business case of
Okay.
why we
Well-
need to buy one.
Well,
And
we'll,
maybe it does make
um,
sense.
look for more grants and see if there's anything out there and maybe submit it back at a later time to the council.
So Danny, we're renting one next week, is that correct?
Correct.
So we still, I mean, even after this one, we still have months to think about
Correct.
purchasing one, because we
That's
just,
correct, Mayor.
we just rented one,
Yep.
correct?
And well, like I said, we can do it in the fall and
Talk about it again.
like dump day, we can do it same time of there.
Okay.
It is a luxury item. All right, so we finally got the pump station. That just shows you where the pump stations are. And like I said, Holly Court, middle of your screen, it goes to Chandler Hawk. Chandler Hawk pumps it to the right, or to my right, to Logan Point. Logan Point then pumps it all the way up through Kroger, down 78 to a gravity line, which is at Old Zion Cemetery Road.
So what you're showing is right now, Holly Court pumps all the way down to Chandler Hawk. By eliminating Holly Court, it's going to flow to Huntington Ridge, and then that will continue on,
Correct.
which will reduce the burden on Chandler Hawk. So
That is correct. And then there's another whole scenario where now I can show you this, that you had a pump station at Tommy Lee Fuller, which is right in the middle of the screen. We would actually like to take that and turn it to go towards Logan Point gravity, because it would flow gravity, and that would, Huntington Ridge is like at 10% capacity. It has 90% capacity. That is the right pump station, right? Yes, and Chandler Hawk is the one that's so much volume. So if we get rid of Holly Court, and then we will hopefully in-house maybe do the gravity from Tommy Lee Fuller to Logan. It's actually not even Logan Point, it's a manhole, correct, on Tommy Lee Fuller. So, yes. This is why y'all pay us the big bucks to think. But that's where the pump stations are. Any questions on the pump stations? And
What's
actually with like,
What's the S stands for? SPS? I know the PS stands for pump station. What's the first S stand for?
sanitary pump station.
Sanitary,
Yeah.
okay.
So like with the new development going next to the high school has a pump station, but when that development to the right of the high school gets developed, that will become a gravity line and flow to the new development, then turn around being pumped back. A lot of moving parts. 7:30, Adam's getting hungry.
all right, no general. I don't have any other general updates. Do you have any updates, Danny?
I've spoke long enough, sir.
All right.
Glad to see you back, Lisa.
Thank you.
I can make a motion that we adjourn.
Second.
Aye. Aye. Thank you.
Bye or aye?
Aye.